A lot of relationships come together at the holidays. I wanted to give you some thoughts about how to manage, because I think we need to manage our expectations sometimes and take some pressure off of ourselves. So I want to give you a little advice that you didn't ask for about the holidays. Number one, I think it's really important to manage your expectations about the holidays, because sometimes we get a little starry-eyed and we get really high expectations about how wonderful everything's going to be and set ourselves up for disappointment. Sometimes we get into situations where reality can never live up to the expectations, or we have selective memories of how great everything was, and we think of Christmas's past or Thanksgiving's past, and we selectively pick out those good moments. We forget about Uncle Bob getting drunk and falling into the Christmas tree, or Aunt Edna burning the turkey, the kids running through the house and making so much noise you just wanted to just get up and run out the back door. My dad always said that the holidays were a time where people that didn't know each other that well traveled a long way to spend too much time in too small a space. I guess you could tell he was a bit of a cynic about the holidays. He actually enjoyed them. But let's talk about the expectations for a minute. If you're in a situation where you've always driven 18, 20 hours with the kids in the back of the car, to get somewhere that's really crowded and you're with some people that maybe you knew once in your life, but you really don't know them that well anymore and you don't have that much in common with them anymore, is it a sacrilege to ask yourself if that's a reasonable expectation to put on yourself? If money is tight this year and gas prices are really through the roof, and it's going to cost you $300 to make this round trip out of pocket, not to mention the wear and tear on your car and tires and oil and indirect costs that you don't actually see, are you making yourself do something that you really don't want to do? Are you putting stress and pressure on yourself that you really don't want? Look, I'm all about family togetherness. I really am. I love for family to be together at the holidays if it makes sense. But we are in an age of technology. Ask yourself honestly, do I really need to do this? Is it in my best interest and the best interest of my family? Because in the age of technology, you can FaceTime those people and laugh and talk, joke about the football game and have a good visit, and do that a couple of times maybe during the weekend and see each other and all. And is that as good as being there? Absolutely not. No question about it. It's better to be there and feel those hugs and spend time together and visit and all of that. But you do have to realistically ask yourself, is this in my family's best interest right now? Or is it in my family's best interest right now to actually have a family Christmas where it's just two kids and us, or me and my daughter or son if I'm a single mom? Maybe we need to create a special ritual or tradition here just with us and not feel guilty about it, not feel like we're a horrible son or daughter because we don't put our kids in the back seat of the car and drive 18 hours to get somewhere we can't afford to be, don't really want to do, and create tremendous stress and pressure and have to be back to work on Monday. I'm just saying, ask yourself if it's really in you and your family's best interest if the expectations are unreasonable. If they're not, if everybody's in town and close by and it's what you want to do, great. I'm thrilled for you. Do that and enjoy it. I just wanted to bring up, because oftentimes people just don't even entertain the question, do I do this or do I not? Because it's just assumed. Of course you do. It's Thanksgiving. You have to do it. Well, no, you don't. Maybe you can see them over the summer or at another time and use technology and FaceTime, as I said, something like that. I just wanted to raise that and tell you that it doesn't make you a horrible person if you make the decision that financially it doesn't make sense and lifestyle-wise it doesn't make sense right now. It doesn't mean you're a horrible son or daughter or aunt or uncle. If they guilt induce you, they'll get over it. Now let's move to the next phase. whether they're local or you do make the trip or whatever, and you get there. Every family has issues. You probably have issues with somebody in your family, some frustration, some problem. Make a decision before you go that you have the right to pick your battles and your battlefields. And you have the right to pick when you're going to fight those battles. You remember we talked about that. Just make a decision that around the dinner table or in the kitchen, when everybody's together, maybe for the one time a year that everybody gets together, that's just not the battlefield that you want to fight on. Resolve before you go that, yes, there are some issues here. We're just simply not going to solve them at Christmas. We can all get on the phone later, or I can contact this person individually or whatever, but Christmas is just not for problem solving. You don't have to use this time to clear up all the resentments, problems, and agendas. I think you need to make some decisions going in, and one of them needs to be that you're just simply not going to talk about politics, and you're not going to talk about existing problems. Now, if you decide that you're not going to talk about politics, then people may be upset with you because they want to vent and talk about politics. And if they do, just excuse yourself. Just say, oh, great, y'all are going to talk about politics. I'm going to take the kids out back and swing. Or I'm going to walk the dog to Cleveland. Anything. But you're going to have a more peaceful time, and you're going to have less conflict if you make that decision going in. So if you do go and you decide I'm not going to solve problems, and I'm not going to talk politics, so what are you going to do? Well, there's something called reflexive biting. Let me, by analogy, talk about animal psychology for a minute. And you're probably thinking, my God, where's he going now? Well, in animal psychology, we have a lot of things that we've really learned about human functioning because we've studied it in animals and then set it up to see if this holds for humans, and it does. And one of the things we've learned is what we call reflexive biting, where you can take docile animals like white mice, put two of them in a good-sized cage, and they either ignore each other or they play or whatever, and they're just fine. You can put 3 or 4 in there, same thing. You put 30 or 40 in there, and you know what happens? They start biting each other. They start fighting each other. Why? It's called reflexive biting. They get stressed. It's too crowded. There's no way to get off by yourself and be a docile white mouse. Everywhere you go, there's another mouse. They can't get by themselves. They can't rest. They can't be alone. They get frustrated. And when they get frustrated, they lash out. Now, by analogy, let's take that to Aunt Edna's house for Thanksgiving. You've got a house where maybe 3 or 4 people live, and they get along just fine, just like the white mice in the big cage. Okay, now you bring in another 10 or 11 people, and everybody's going to stay at Aunt Edna's, and they get there on Wednesday night, and they're going to be there Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and as Hemingway said, guests like fish stink after 3 days. So you're going to get some reflexive biting. You, on the other hand, can decide that you're going to come late and leave early. You, on the other hand, can say, we didn't want to intrude, so we're going to stay at the motel. And you think, well, that's going to cost a couple $100. Yeah, maybe, but you're better off to go get one room with a couple of rollaways and you and your people stay together where you can get away from everything and decompress a little bit. If that's something that you can afford to do, it might be a really good investment. If it's not something you can afford to do, you might think about not staying quite so long. I'm just trying to give you a heads up that some of the meltdowns that happen during the holidays are not as random as they may seem. In fact, they're quite predictable human nature-wise. When you think about such things as overcrowding and stress and tension, particularly if a couple of people there have chips on their shoulders or drink too much or have an issue with you from last summer, and all this gets mixed together, it's like, gee, what could possibly go wrong here? It's like a lot could go wrong here. You got somebody with a chip on their shoulder, somebody drinking too much, somebody talking politics, and we're all jammed together in a room set up for 4 people, and it's now got 14. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. I probably sound like a pessimist about the holidays, and I'm absolutely not. I love the holidays. Our family, we've never had so much as a crossword at Thanksgiving or Christmas. Whether it's our house or theirs, or we've traveled to somewhere, some destination, we've always had just a terrific time. So I'm not saying this because I've had some bad experience. I'm saying it because out of 45 years of being a mental health professional, I've dealt with a lot of people that have come home wounded from what would have been designed as a wonderful family get-together. Manage your situation by managing your expectations and recognize if you're setting yourself up for failure by putting stress and pressure on yourself by traveling too far, putting on a financial strain, staying too long in too small of a space, and trying to solve problems on a battlefield that's not very good for problem solving.